Welcome. Today we're going to be discussing the technique Unfurling Crane, its execution, some things you should know about its execution, some problems that could arise, and a little bit of its history. So let's start with the history. Unfurling Crane, like a lot of these upper techniques, was introduced in Form 4, and then at some point it was extracted, and there were things added to it. In this case, those things were added in 6. So because of that, like we've always said, you have short versions, middle versions, and long versions. We are going to be concentrating on the long version, which is the version that's in both 4 and a variation on the version that's in 6, basically the end of it. So let's talk through this initial attack. It is off of a left-right roundhouse combination. If you notice, it's off of a straight coming from your front, but theoretically it could be coming from your side, this way. And if that's the case, if you notice what's happening here, if you look at 4, when we start out, 4 starts this way and does Unfurling Crane. That is to show you that if you're being attacked from the side, you might want to use the front hand before you employing that backhand in order to get to that block. Now, as we most likely always say, if you hear any of our other videos, we're talking about at or above the elbow on the outside of the arm. Now we're showing you the opposite. We're at or below the elbow on the inside of the arm here. So on the outside, you generally use the elbow as your point, and when you're outside the arm, you want to complete your motion at or above that elbow. Not below, because then you have the elbow to contend with. That's the opposite concept here. If we go above the elbow, we now have the elbow to contend with, so we want to stay below the elbow. So again, opposite concept here. So one more time, just so you can see that motion. It goes 1, 2. Now, if you'll notice the form does this downward block here. It is not necessary in the actual technique itself. So from the front, we might just want to go 1, 2, bringing this up for a check or a cover, rather than trying to do the block of an imaginary thing. Keep in mind, there's themes in 4 that are not shown in the technique. This major theme is overlapping circles in 4. So, and we don't have to stick to those themes in the self-defense technique because the primary idea is to defend yourself, not to show themes. So there's no need for us to go 1, 2. If you were going to do that version, all you need to do is the initial block this way, and then go into the second block this way. Okay? So that's a misunderstanding that happens a lot about this technique. You're trying to do the form version, and it really doesn't make any sense. So you start adding imaginary things like kicks and punches at the same time. It's not necessary. It's just off of double punches. Okay? So let's continue from there. We said we step back, we do our block, do our check. Now this other punch comes in. We now obey that same rule, at or below the elbow on the inside of the arm, pick up the check, and then we close the distance to a hammer fist. So one more time. 1, 2, and then from there, they're going to be bending forward, so we use our force, and we use this as a downward heel palm claw. It's a sophisticated motion. It could be a heel palm, it could be a claw, but in this case, why not do both? 1, 2, and then in the form again, the overlapping circles, we would do this in 4. But that's a problem, because notice what I'm hitting. We are hitting the top of the head, which is a bad thing to do. So for the execution of the technique, let's turn around this way, right here. Rather than going this way with the back knuckle, what we want to do is hit as a proper back knuckle. So we go 1, 2, rather than 1, 2. So let's go back to here again. Just wanted to make sure that you can see that angle. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, this is where you would typically end the technique as it ends in 4, but we're going to continue forward. This is a standard extension. Standard extension is you recognize you're in a specific position and you've learned a couple things that you can do from that position. In this case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking this top route and bottom route. So we see we've gone 1, 2, so now we're going to reverse that pattern and go 1, 2. And we're going to close the distance using our back foot, which is somewhat unique to what we usually do is close the distance with the front foot. Now what we're going to do is close that distance with our back foot and then use the angle of obscurity to hit them. So let's switch this way so you can see that. So we've gotten to this point here, do our claw back knuckle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to close this distance basically jamming this opponent as we hit here. Keep this check up. You notice that what's going to happen here is I'm going to come right underneath, then I'm going to scoop, and then you could theoretically leave at this point and get out, but since this is a standard extension, we're going to put the two pieces together. We're going to go one, and then we're going to turn the opponent and then chop. So keep in mind, this is two motions. I could, for some reason, be here and just do the end piece, or I could be here and just do the beginning piece. But in this case, what we're doing is we're showing you both pieces put together as the standard extension. So it goes 1, 2, 3. Now, one of the problems that happens here is, one, you try and close with the front foot and you don't have the alignment for the elbow. So what you want to do is close this way so that you're right up against the opponent so you can shoot this straight up. Then extend to the claw. Then also do the scoop kick. Now this is basically what you're doing in Wings of Silk when we get to this piece, but now we're doing it from the front. The next problem that arises here is once you get to this piece, you do hook this and then you try and hit almost like a deflecting hammer upside down. That's not what's supposed to be happening here. What's supposed to be happening here is you extend up and then reverse that line back down again. So don't create a circle and then hit. What you want to do is go up and down. Next thing to talk about is that timing. Do we go 1, 2, or do we do 2 then 1, or do we do 1 then 2? In this case, what we're doing is we're facing the opponent and we want to expose an open-ended triangle here. So what we do is we use this open-ended triangle to take the upper part, then we turn the opponent to expose that open-ended triangle and then chop into it and then cross up the cover without landing. If you were to land, you could do other things. Doesn't say you have to step forward or reverse. You can decide which way. The ideal phase is the standard extension is to just go from the kick and the chop and then leave. Now you may be saying to yourself, well, you're not in a good base. Rule number 1 is to establish a base. We're really not hitting it from a standard base or a good base. The reason why you can get away with it here is because we're using gravitational marriage at this point. So we have the proper alignments to drop as we're hitting here. So what we're doing is we're using this leg to drop our weight down to accent the hit. This would be called body English. So what I'm going to do is drop as I hit and then cross out and cover. So I can do it from one leg. We wouldn't be jumping up in the air. That would be preposterous. So what we're doing instead is we're showing how to do it from one leg so that you can obtain a base depending upon whether you're going up and down rather than requiring 2 feet for straight back and forward. Okay, so let's walk through this one more time. We do our 1 with the check, 2, pick that up, pick up the check, remaining below the elbow on the inside of the arms, close the distance to gap properly, get that hammer fist. Then from there we do our claw and back knuckle, taking that line of attack for reality rather than for form. Closing the distance with the hammer fist, maintaining the check here, going straight up, hit, then hit, not hit at the same time, cross out and cover. Okay? One more time, let's switch directions so you can see it from a different direction without any explanation. Up. Hope this video helps you. Thank you very much.